video, I'm going to show you how I stack and fill and ice a double barrel cake. If you don't know what a double barrel cake is, it's a really tall one-tiered cake, which is basically two tiers of the same size stacked on top of each other and iced into one cake. So if you want to see how I fill, stack, and ice a double barrel cake, then just keep on watching. To do this, I have 3 cakes that are 7 inches and the pan was 2 inches high. I have a cake board that is 1 inch smaller than the cake, so these cakes are 7 inches. I have a 6-inch cake board, a grease-proof cake board. I have some bubble tea straws, and I have a sewing ruler, which I use to measure the height of the straw that the straws will have to be. I should also mention that I have a 10-inch cake board. This is a 7-inch cake, so I wanted to put it on a 10-inch cake board. You can put it on 12-inch or whatever you need to, but I'm doing it on a 10-inch board. I have a turntable, and like always, I put a piece of non-skid pad on top of the turntable so the board doesn't slide around when I'm working with it. I'm taking my Wilton leveler. I'm going to put it on the bottom notch and cut all 3 cakes. And then to cut the top off, this has a bunch of notches on here. I'm just going to bring it 5 notches from the top on both sides and cut the top pieces off. So now I have 6 pieces, and I'm going to do 3 on top and 3 on the bottom. When I fill my cakes, I use a simple syrup solution that I spray on the tiers. Simple syrup is a mixture of equal parts of water and sugar. You bring it to a boil, add a little vanilla, and let it cool. Then I put it in this spray bottle and I spray my tiers. I did explain this in my other video, and I will link that to this video. So to help the cake stick to the board, I have some melted chocolate here, and I'm going to just take a little bit of the melted chocolate and put it on the cake board. And then I'm going to spray this with the simple syrup solution. And put this on top of the melted chocolate. Now, I'm going to keep spinning this around and make sure that the cake is centered in the middle of the board. So making sure that it looks even the whole way around here. Now, this cake is getting filled with cookies and cream buttercream. So I am going to start to fill the cake, putting a little bit of the buttercream and spreading it around. And then repeating the process. Spraying the layers on both sides, stacking it on top, making sure that the edges line up, and adding more buttercream. Now I'm just spreading the buttercream thinly over the outside to seal the cake. And now I'm going to put the straws on the bottom of this cake to support the weight of the top section. So I'm going to take this ruler, stick the ruler in, press the top part down to the very top, and take this out. I thank Sharon Zambito from Sugar Ed Productions for teaching me how to do this. This is how she fills her cakes, and I've learned so much from her. I can link her school below. So now to mark the straws, I'm going to take the flat part of the straw, line it up to the pink part, and mark with a Sharpie marker where the ruler ends for all 4 straws. I'm going to cut the marker part off, so cut right below where the marker is for all 4 pieces. Now I'm going to put the straws in the cake about an inch or so from the edge. Put a little more buttercream on. And then take the cake board and put it on top, making sure it's not sticking out on the side of the cake. Now, the weight of the top part of the cake will be supported by the straws and the cardboard, so the cake won't sink onto itself. And then let's repeat the process. So I'm going to use the little melted white chocolate. The reason I use chocolate on the smaller cakes and not buttercream is it prevents the cakes from sliding around. The chocolate helps the cake stick to the board a little better. But when you cut it, you can easily lift the cake off of the chocolate. So I'm going to spray this cake. Making sure the edges line up. And give this about a minute or two to set before I start filling it so the cake won't slide around. Adding buttercream, spraying the layers, stacking them, repeating the process. You don't want so much filling in between each layer, but it's nice to have enough where it's not just like a really thin amount. I want to be able to tell what the filling is. And then just making sure all the seams are sealed with a really thin layer of this buttercream, filling in where I have to, and then just basically scraping it off to make sure it's all sealed. And I'm going to wrap it with a piece of plastic wrap. I'm going to let it sit out and settle for at least 2 hours before I would ice the cake. Okay, so to do this part, I need my buttercream icing, which I have right here. I will link the video that I did making my buttercream icing. It is an American buttercream recipe, so it's butter and shortening based. I need some hot water, but for doing a double barrel cake, I need a bigger bench scraper to scrape the icing. Usually I use this one on my regular sized cakes, but it's not tall enough. And when I do this, I usually dip it in the hot water. But for this one, I'm using this bench scraper, which is twice the size. I can't dip it in there, so I'm gonna have to run this under hot water before I wipe it on the cake. I did get this with from Shauna McGreevy Cake Heads. I can link her below. Shauna is amazing. She's one of my cake idols. A fondant smoother. A Viva paper towel, some regular paper towels to wipe the bench scraper. And you're gonna need spatulas to spread the icing. You can use an icing tip, I just don't do it that way. And I have this turntable, which I got on eBay years ago. I'm not even sure where I could link this, but I love it. I got it like 15 years ago. I will try to find one that's similar, but I always link the other one that I have. It's a Wilton one. I can link that. And I always put a piece of non-skid pad on top of my turntable to prevent the cake from sliding around. And here is the cake. It settled overnight, wrapped in the plastic. So I'm just going to peel this off. Smells delicious. And also you're gonna need some food grade paper to be able to smooth the icing on the cake. Just taking some buttercream and spreading it on. I am going to probably fast forward a lot of this part of the video to keep it shorter, because I do have a whole video explaining how I ice my cakes, and I will link that so you can watch that. So I start on the top and then do a thin coat down the sides of the cake. Okay, much easier to film from this angle since I am right-handed and that was not working. And once I have the thinner coat on, I'm gonna put the thicker coat on. I do it this way to avoid air bubbles. I explained that all in my other buttercream video. And then once I have the cake iced, I always build the icing up over the top edge. Take my spatula and just scrape a little bit of it off so there's just a smaller lip hanging over the top. Now since I can't use a pot of boiling water, I'm going to put this under hot water, wet the back of it so it gets really hot, and then wipe it with a paper towel. So it's wet, wipe it with a paper towel, and then holding it straight up and down, trying to keep my head out of the way, smoothing it out. Scraping this off, putting it back in the bowl, and repeating the process. I'm gonna wet this, wipe it off, smooth it on the cake. Making sure you're holding it straight up and down. I go over all of this in my other video. And there we go, on to the smoothing method. So I'm gonna take Viva paper towel and I'm gonna smooth out all of these little marks. There's a rougher side to this and a smoother side. So I'm gonna put the smooth side against the cake and lightly use my hands and just rub up and down to get rid of those little marks. And go around the whole cake. I'm gonna take my fondant smoother and do the same process, smoothing it with a flat surface, using gentle pressure. Now this fondant smoother does happen to be almost the exact size of the cake. If your fondant smoother is shorter, then you're gonna have to lift up a little bit and press, but not press too hard because you still want the cake to be up, straight up and down. So if you lift this up off the board and you start to press in, then the cake is gonna come in at the top. So just be very mindful of holding your smoother straight. Dip this in the water, wipe it off so the metal is hot. And then I'm going to sit level with the cake and push the icing back to form a ledge. And then wipe it off and repeat this process, keeping this level to go the whole way around. I do explain this whole process in my How to Ice a Buttercream Cake, which is linked to this video. And now I'm gonna let this sit for 5 minutes to crust and then continue the smoothing method. So now to finish smoothing, I'm gonna take the paper and my fondant smoother and put it against the cake and push gently, gentle pressure, to smooth out any marks that the Viva paper towel may have made in the icing. And then, like always, once I have it all smooth, I'm gonna sit down level again and just refine this top part of the cake, making sure that it's level the whole way around. And then, like I always do to smooth out the top, I'm going to take a little bit of hot water on this spatula, drop it in the middle, and then spread it around to get rid of any of the marks on the top. And there is your double barrel buttercream cake. So here you go, here's your double barrel cake. It's all iced and ready to go into the refrigerator to set before I start to decorate it. Whenever I make a double barrel cake, I usually tell the customer that there is a piece of cardboard in between, so when they go to cut the cake, they know that there's a top part and a bottom part to that. And like I said in the beginning, I'm gonna link the videos to how I stack, how I fill, and how I ice a smooth buttercream cake. I will link all of that below. So I really can't think of anything else. If you have any questions about this, leave them below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And like always, please give this a thumbs up if you like this video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and you want to see more videos like this. And you can follow me. I'm on social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram, and I have my website. I will link all of that below. So I think that is it for now, and I will see you on the next